Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going to be diving into something today. Um, should you get a legal agreement when you move in together?
Mm,
It's a pretty big decision,
it is a really big decision.
but with no easy answers, really.
No easy answers, and especially because, unlike marriage,
Right.
moving in together doesn't automatically come with a set of legal rights and protections.
Exactly, yeah. Millions of couples are choosing to cohabitate these days,
That's right.
but the law hasn't quite caught up
Yeah.
to this whole social shift.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if you're setting yourself up for potential trouble if you don't have some kind of agreement.
Yeah, think about it this way. A cohabitation agreement is like a relationship roadmap.
Okay.
It can really outline how you handle, you know, finances, property, responsibilities.
Mhm.
It's about setting those expectations.
So it's kind of like a safety net in case things get complicated.
Exactly. Like, let's say you buy a house together.
Okay.
A cohabitation agreement can spell out, who owns what percentage,
Right.
how are those mortgage payments handled, what happens if one person wants to move out
Ooh, yeah.
without that clarity.
Yeah.
You could end up in a legal battle
Oh, wow.
down the line.
I hadn't really thought about it like that.
Yeah.
But isn't that, I don't know, a little unromantic
Mm.
to be thinking about breaking up when
Yeah.
you're just moving in together?
I get that sentiment.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
They worry that bringing up legal agreements
Yeah.
makes it feel like you're planning for the relationship to fail.
Right, exactly. Hey, I love you,
Right.
but just in case this goes south, let's get our lawyers involved.
Right, but think about it this way. Other people argue that having these conversations up front
Okay.
actually demonstrates commitment
Okay.
to the relationship. It's being, proactive, responsible.
Not pessimistic.
Yeah.
I see your point there.
Yeah.
It's like having that fire escape plan.
Exact.
You hope you never use it,
Right.
but it's good to know it's there,
It's there for you.
just in case.
It's about mitigating those potential risks and creating that framework for,
Yeah.
for handling those difficult situations should they arise.
Right, and let's be real,
Yeah.
even the strongest relationships
Of course.
can face those unexpected challenges.
Absolutely.
So having an agreement isn't like expecting the relationship to fail.
Right.
It's just being prepared for whatever life throws your way.
Exactly. And honestly, it can help you address those sometimes awkward conversations
Oh, yeah,
about money and responsibilities before they even become a source of conflict.
that's a really good point. What are some specific examples of things that couples should be thinking about when it comes to these agreements?
Well, finances is a big one.
Okay.
You'll want to be clear on how you handle those joint expenses like rent or mortgage payments,
Right.
bills, groceries,
Yeah.
Will you split everything 50-50?
Mm-hmm.
Will you contribute proportionally based on income or
Yeah.
maintain completely separate accounts?
Yeah.
These are all things to discuss and document.
And it sounds like having these conversations could really prevent a lot of arguments and resentment down the line.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Another important aspect is property. If you're buying furniture, appliances, artwork together,
Mm-hmm.
you want to specify who owns
Right.
what happens if you decide to part ways.
Okay, this is all making a lot of sense, but what about those couples who just aren't into these agreements?
Yeah.
What are the reasons for that?
Well, as we touched on, some people find the whole concept to be a total romance killer.
Yeah.
They feel like it undermines the foundation of trust,
Mm.
makes it feel transactional.
It does feel a bit like you're signing a business deal
Right?
instead of embarking on this
Right.
shared life adventure.
Yeah, exactly. And there's also that concern that agreements could create an imbalance of power,
Okay.
especially if one partner has, more assets or
Yeah.
earning potential than the other.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So it's not just about protecting yourself financially, it's also about making sure that the agreement feels fair
Yes.
and equitable for both partners.
Absolutely. And that's where open communication and that willingness to compromise is just
Yes.
so crucial.
Okay, so it sounds like there are some really compelling arguments on both sides.
Yeah.
But what about the legal side of things?
Mm.
How enforceable are these agreements really?
That's a key question.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the answer isn't always straightforward.
Okay.
Enforceability really depends on where you live.
Oh, okay.
Some states have very specific laws
Gotcha.
outlining what these agreements can and cannot include,
Okay.
while others provide less guidance.
So it's really important to understand the laws in your specific state.
It really is.
Yeah.
You might even want to consult with an attorney who specializes in family law
Okay.
just to make sure that your agreement is legally sound and will hold up in court if needed.
That's great advice, but I imagine hiring a lawyer can get expensive.
They can.
Is there a way for couples to explore this option without, breaking the bank?
There are definitely some more affordable options.
Okay.
Some legal aid organizations offer free or low-cost consultations.
Oh, wow.
And you can also find a ton of resources online
Okay.
that provide templates and guidance for creating your own agreement.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So it's about finding that right balance
Yeah,
between that legal protection and affordability.
exactly. And remember, even if you don't opt for that formal legal document, having those open and honest conversations about your expectations
Yeah.
and potential what-if scenarios is incredibly valuable.
Yeah. It's about being proactive and communicative,
Yes,
regardless of whether you go the legal route or not.
you got it.
Okay, so open communication, that's something that we're going to delve into a little bit further
Yes.
as we explore the potential drawbacks of these cohabitation agreements.
Yeah.
So stick with us. Welcome back. So we were talking before about the importance of open communication when it comes to these cohabitation agreements.
Right.
Are there downsides, though,
Yeah.
to these agreements that couples should be aware of?
Definitely. While there are a lot of potential benefits, it's important to acknowledge some of those potential drawbacks.
Okay.
One of the concerns we hear pretty often is that introducing legal documents into a relationship can just create the sense of formality
Yeah.
that can feel at odds with that kind of emotional intimacy that a lot of couples desire.
Yeah, it's like you're so excited to move in together and you're building this future and all this romantic stuff.
Right.
And then you're also like, oh, by the way, what happens if we break up?
It's like bringing a prenup to a first date.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that, for some can trigger those feelings of vulnerability, even resentment.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it seem like one partner is less trusting or committed than the other.
Right. That's a tough situation.
Yeah.
Are there any ways to kind of mitigate those negative feelings?
Communication is key.
Okay.
Approaching the conversation as a collaborative effort
Yeah.
rather than a negotiation can make a huge difference.
Right.
It's about framing the agreement as a tool for clarity and protection,
Okay.
not a weapon to be used against each other.
So less about lawyering up and more about partnering up.
Exactly. Working together to create a document that reflects your shared values and goals for the relationship.
I like that. And maybe it even helps you better understand each other's perspectives and priorities in the process.
Absolutely. The process of creating a cohabitation agreement can actually be an opportunity to strengthen your communication skills.
Okay.
And really just deepen your understanding of your partner's needs and desires.
So even if a couple ultimately decides to not go with that formal agreement, just
Yeah.
having those conversations can be really beneficial in and of itself.
Totally. A lot of couples find that simply having those open and honest discussions about their expectations is enough to create that strong foundation
Okay.
for their shared life. They establish those clear boundaries, financial guidelines, decision-making processes without needing a legal document.
So they're kind of creating their own relationship rule book without all the legal jargon.
Exactly. They're proactively addressing potential issues and finding solutions that work for them.
I love that.
Yeah.
But this approach, I imagine, requires a high level of trust and communication.
Definitely. It takes effort
Yeah.
and a willingness to be open and vulnerable
Right.
with each other.
Mm-hmm. Are there any examples of couples who have successfully cohabitated without a formal agreement?
We've heard from many.
Okay.
One couple shared that they've been living together for over a decade
Wow.
and have always just relied on that open communication and
Wow.
mutual respect to navigate their finances and responsibilities. They have regular money dates.
Money dates. That's cute.
Yeah, they sit down, they discuss their budget savings goals, any potential financial concerns.
So they're proving that a strong relationship can thrive
Right.
without that legally binding contract.
Exactly. Their experience really highlights the fact that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
The key is to find an approach that feels authentic. Yeah.
To your relationship style and values.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
So if a couple is considering going that no formal agreement route,
Yeah.
what are some things they should keep in mind?
Well, first and foremost, they need to be excellent communicators.
Right.
They need to feel comfortable discussing those potentially sensitive topics.
Mm-hmm.
Finances, chores, even future family planning.
Right. It's about being proactive and addressing those potential conflicts before they even have a chance to escalate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They should also establish clear expectations and boundaries from the beginning.
Yeah.
How will they handle household expenses? Who's responsible for which chores?
Yeah.
How will they make decisions about major purchases? Having these conversations up front can really prevent misunderstandings
Right.
and resentment down the line.
Yeah, okay. That's really practical advice.
Yeah.
What if a couple's somewhere in the middle, though?
Yeah.
They want some level of clarity and protection,
Right.
but aren't necessarily comfortable with that super formal legal agreement. That's where that concept of a less formal agreement comes in.
Okay.
Think of it as a spectrum,
Okay.
with legally binding contracts on one end
Right.
and complete trust on the other.
Okay. So there's a middle ground
There's a middle ground.
where couples can kind of get some of the benefits of an agreement
Right.
without the formality of that legal document.
Exactly. A less formal agreement could be as simple as a written outline
Okay.
of your shared expectations and financial arrangements, or it could involve having facilitated conversations with a therapist or a mediator,
Right.
someone who can help you navigate those sensitive topics and create a plan that works for both of you.
So finding that sweet spot is really about personal preference and what feels right for the couple.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
It's about finding that balance between pragmatism and emotional comfort.
This has been so insightful.
Yeah.
So far, we've covered a lot of ground, from the pros and cons of cohabitation agreements to the importance of open communication and the possibility of these less formal arrangements.
Yes.
But I think there's one crucial aspect we haven't really touched on yet:
And what's that?
the emotional impact. Let's be honest, like, introducing legal documents into a relationship, even with the best intentions,
Yeah.
can stir up some really complex feelings.
It can.
And that's something I think we really need to address.
I agree.
Okay, so we're back and ready to tackle that emotional elephant in the room.
Okay.
It's one thing to talk about finances and logistics, but then you bring the legal documents in.
Right.
It feels like a whole other level of seriousness in a relationship.
It can feel like a lot.
Yeah.
For sure.
Even if you have the best intentions, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's about protecting each other. It's about clarity.
Yeah.
You have to think about how it might be perceived
Totally.
on that emotional level.
Absolutely.
It's almost like you're so excited, you know, to move in together.
Yeah.
You're building a life. You're building a future. All that romantic stuff.
Right.
But then you're also talking about, like, what if it doesn't work out?
Exactly. And I think that for a lot of couples, that creates
Yeah.
this sense of dissonance,
Mm.
you know, because they might think that bringing up a cohabitation agreement almost means that you lack trust or commitment.
It's like saying, I'm not sure this is going to work out.
Right.
So let's just get all this legal stuff figured out.
Exactly. And that can be really hurtful.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, if one partner is more enthusiastic about the agreement than the other, it can make them question, you know, are we really on the same page here?
Yeah. How can couples kind of navigate those tricky conversations?
Well, I think one important thing is to focus on those shared goals of the agreement.
Okay.
You know, instead of making it about protecting yourself if things go wrong,
Right.
emphasize that it's about, you know, peace of mind and clarity for both of you.
So shifting the focus from, like, what if we fail, to how can we set ourselves up for success?
Exactly. And I think it's also really important to acknowledge and validate any concerns or anxieties that your partner might have about the process.
Don't dismiss their feelings or make them feel like they're overreacting.
Exactly. It's about creating that space where both partners feel safe and comfortable
Right,
to
yeah.
share their vulnerabilities.
This doesn't have to be like a super serious...
It does a
Big-
formal process, right?
No, not at all. You could approach it with playfulness, even humor.
I like that.
Yeah, you know, make it a date night.
Okay.
Order some takeout, pour some wine,
Yeah.
talk about your hopes and dreams for the future.
So turn it into a bonding experience instead of this, like, scary legal thing.
Exactly. And if you find yourselves really struggling to have these conversations on your own,
Mm-hmm.
don't hesitate to seek out some professional guidance.
Right?
You know, a therapist, a mediator can provide that neutral space.
That's a good reminder.
Yeah.
Sometimes it helps to have that objective third party there
Absolutely.
to help facilitate those conversations.
For sure.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the big takeaway here is that deciding whether or not to create a cohabitation agreement, it's a really personal decision.
It is. With both practical and emotional implications.
Absolutely.
There's no right or wrong answer.
There isn't. The answer is going to be different for every couple.
It's about finding what works for your relationship, your communication style, your comfort levels.
Exactly. And I think even if you decide not to go with a formal agreement, just having these conversations can be really valuable.
Yeah,
It can help you build a stronger foundation of trust, understanding, and shared goals.
Absolutely. Well, we've covered a lot today,
We have.
from the pros and cons of these agreements,
Yes.
the legal considerations, all the emotional complexities.
Yeah. Hopefully our listeners are walking away
Yeah.
with a better understanding
Absolutely.
and feeling empowered to make that decision that's right for them.
I think so. But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought to ponder.
Okay.
We've been talking about how these agreements impact individual couples. But what about those broader societal implications?
Oh, that's interesting.
Right? As more and more couples choose to live together before or instead of marriage, how are these evolving norms
Right.
going to shape our views on commitment,
Yeah.
family, and even the definition of partnership in the 21st century?
That is a really great question and something I think we all need to think about.
It is, and it's a conversation that I think we'll continue to explore in future episodes.
Definitely.
Until then, thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and keep those conversations flowing